Jordan.
Attention guests in the luggage claim area, welcome to the Jordania Volcano Hotel. A couple of quick reminders before you approach the elevator towards the lobby. Jordan's Soapbox is a show broadcasted on-site and supported via Patreon. If you would like to support what I do and not cause the country of Jordania economic ruin, consider supporting it for behind-the-scenes access and other rewards. It's recommended to frequent visitors subscribe to the channel and ring the bell for updates whenever new videos are made. Do you want to hang out with your fellow guests? Consider jacking in to the Cyberpunk Jordan Discord, where you can hang out with me and talk about Sonic and Sega stuff, among other things. And now, our elevator shaft will be departing for the lobby area. Thank you for your attention and enjoy your stay.
So, things are still a mess around here. There are these still scary terrors outside that we still haven't figured anything out about, and the Jordania Volcano Hotel suffered massive amounts of damage. We repaired enough though where we can start pulling stuff from my collection again, using a new system of vacuum tubes and several hundred Kamito canisters from Disney World. Do not ask how we obtained them. The important thing is, they allow for instantaneous delivery. That's our subject for today's episode. Sonic the Hedgehog. Wait a minute. That is not that issue. This is an issue of Mobian, I actually have no idea what this thing is. SK620, have you lost a circuit sending this down here? Oh, there's one other development that I should probably tell you about. The tears are sending things out of them. This droid from the former Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser attraction was one of them. Except this droid truly believes there was a ship called the Halcyon they were on. It was an overpriced hotel that makes mine look cheap comparatively. Anyway, it turns out with a few modifications, this droid can be excellent at record keeping. When it wants to. Shut up, you bucket of bolts. I need IDW Sonic the Hedgehog #1. Return this to the trash. Yeah, the trash. There we are. So, you read the title of this video, and it may come as a surprise to you. I've talked about IDW Sonic a few times here on Jordan's Soapbox, even dedicating an early episode to discussing my overall thoughts about the series. But I never started reviewing IDW Sonic the same way I did with Archie Sonic. Not because I didn't want to, but because IDW Sonic is a whole other beast. See, Archie Sonic had so many different writers and directions, you can mostly hop around the series reading what interests you. IDW Sonic, with some exceptions like the one-shots and miniseries, is not like that. It's very much a chronological series with an overall consistent tone and direction, meaning that I'd have to start at issue #1 to have it make the most sense for me and all of you. But that's not a bad thing, and that's what we're going to be doing today. Before we do that, we need to understand how IDW Sonic came to be, and that means talking briefly about the fall of Archie Sonic. Because IDW Sonic did not come into being in a vacuum. I'm making a full in-depth video in the future talking about the end of Archie Sonic, but here's the short version. Archie Sonic was chugging along when it suddenly ended with little warning in January of 2017, despite solicitations for future issues released earlier. We wouldn't receive news about it until August 2017 when Sega confirmed the comic had been indeed cancelled. There's a wide variety of speculated factors that led to its demise, including Archie Comics shifting away from licensed books in favor of its own in-house property. How's that working out for you guys? The alleged failure of the Worlds Unite crossover and associated costs, and Archie vs. Ken Pender's souring relations between Archie and Sega. The staff had no idea what was happening in between that time. I remember meeting Tracy Yardley at MegaCon 2017 and asked him about it, with the answer being that he had no idea what was happening either. When it finally was confirmed, I lamented the sad end of a comic that I loved and, despite all the turbulent times, still adored, and hoped it wouldn't be the end for the Blue Blur's time in comics. It thankfully wasn't, as soon after it was announced IDW would be making Sonic the Hedgehog comics starting in 2018. See, unlike Archie Comics, who rarely had licensed work with some exceptions like Sonic and Mega Man, IDW had a little less than 2 decades of experience turning franchises such as Transformers, My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, and a heck lot more into some worth reading comics. Seriously, the Friendship is Magic comic was so well done, it basically turned me into a brony before I even watched the show. That's talent. For them to have the license to Sonic was the best choice Sega has ever made. And combined with the announcement of old talent returning, along with some fresh faces, I knew this comic was in some fantastic hands and I worried a little less about it. That didn't mean there weren't going to be some bumps in the road before release. One of the controversies was the comic would be a follow-up to Sonic Forces, which was an incredibly divisive entry into the Sonic series. Thankfully, this was remedied with the fact that it's more of a follow-up than anything else, using it to start the story rather than focus on it. There was also controversy surrounding the choice not to include the Freedom Fighters or allow the original comic closure, which is sadly still a controversy that haunts this comic. But, despite my obvious feelings about that choice, seriously, Sega, just freaking allow them to be in the comic already. I want to allow IDW Sonic to nonetheless be viewed on its own accord, without being burdened by Archie Sonic. Well, I will of course make comparisons to it, that's inevitable. I'm treating this like a separate, independent interpretation of the Blue Blur, because, well, that's what it is. So we'll be covering the first 4 issues of IDW Sonic, collectively comprising the first arc called Fallout. Not to be confused with the video game series that features whatever the heck this is. To that end, the arc can be further organized into individual issues. Issue 1 focuses on Tails, Issue 2 focuses on Amy Rose, Issue 3 focuses on Knuckles, and Issue 4 focuses on newcomer Tangle the Lemur and Blaze the Cat. This arc has a Herculean task ahead of it, because it has to do double duty for both new readers and old readers. New readers have to be introduced to characters, locations, and events that are unfamiliar to them, while old readers have to be reintroduced to the comic's interpretation of all of the above. So, does it succeed? Does it fail? Well, let's find out. We open with an introduction, explaining how the heroic Sonic the Hedgehog has been locked in a cycle of battle with Dr. Eggman until recently, when the Mad Doctor mysteriously vanishes. This introduction works. Mwah. It's simple enough for new readers to understand. Sonic is our hero, Eggman is our villain, while setting up the hook for the next couple of issues. At the same time, it's also not long to where old readers who know these characters waste too much time with intros. There's also some fun references to Sonic Adventure, Sonic Heroes, Sonic Unleashed, and of course Sonic Forces with the scenes of Sonic battling Dr. Eggman. This is only the first page and there's already so much to talk about. Sonic arrives to a town in the nick of time, as the robotic horde of Dr. Eggman seems to be attacking said town. This is a setup that allows us time to see how Sonic is being written here. Heroic, snarky, egotistical, but lovable. He manages to help out the townsfolk while making short work of Dr. Eggman's robots, although he seems to have some trouble with these enormous hammer-swinging ones. But he's saved in the nick of time by the best dang bean who ever lived, Miles Tails Prower. Right away, we're shown how well these two work together and the almost sibling-like bond they share, complete with appropriate banner. Finishing off the Badniks, Tails realizes these Badniks seem a lot more coordinated than usual, with tactics such as ambushes. To be fair, a usual coordination of Badniks is standing there begging to be cannon fodder, so this is new tactics if anything. Sonic decides to continue on with his travels, and I love the conversation between him and Tails before he leaves. Throughout this entire issue, Tails is shown to be capable of handling himself, while at the same time having a well-founded concern for Sonic. It's a stark contrast to how Tails was depicted in Sonic Forces, who essentially was a coward and nothing like Tails in any of the variations of Sonic out there. It's nice to see a Tails who acts like Tails and not a cheap knockoff. It doesn't completely erase that interpretation of the character, but you know what? It fixes it a little bit. Sonic Forces is still bad though. The comic ends with a mysterious figure observing the hedgehog, hinting not so subtly that Amy will be involved in the next issue. The second issue focuses on, if you were paying attention 5 seconds ago, Amy Rose. I was super excited for this issue because Amy has always been one of my favorite Sonic characters, and was so excited and nervous to see how this comic would treat her, because Amy has had awful characterization in the game since her re-debut in Sonic Adventure, relying heavily on her obsession with Sonic, and that was really the only notable character trait. This was similar in Archie Sonic, but over time the writers added more to her, like being a strong, capable fighter for the team. Games would eventually follow suit, where they leaned more into her own capabilities, such as her ability to read tarot cards, something long forgotten from Sonic CD. Thankfully, that's exactly the case in this series, with Amy making her debut by saving Sonic from a spider badnik. She's happy to see Sonic, hoping he can lead the resistance to the left behind badniks. Sonic declines, and throughout the comic we see the two fight well together and bicker as if they were a married couple, which honestly is exactly what I would want to see between these two. They fend off an invasion of a nearby town from badniks, with Amy making her request one last time. Sonic responds with what is essentially his mantra: "It's what I do. Just keep moving, doing good, saving folks, and living as free as the wind. Living by my own way, my own way." To me, that's such a radical departure from his depiction in Archie Sonic, where that depiction was heroism in service to his country, his family, his friends. But in IDW Sonic, he's effectively a drifter with little to rely on other than his friends and himself. And I don't mind that take on the character. It's something we haven't really seen in the comics, and this will be both a strength and weakness as the series goes on. Amy, like a healthy would-be girlfriend, concurs as she doesn't want to change Sonic, but will be more than happy to let him know he should see Knuckles in the South. Our mysterious villain laments on how much Amy has changed, I mean, they're not wrong, and diverting from his intended course. The third issue focuses on Sonic and Knuckles. And Knuckles, and Knuckles, and Knuckles, and Knuckles, and Knuckles. Thanks. It's definitely the most lighthearted of the 4 issues, with an art style that is more cartoonish to match. And for the record, there's nothing wrong with that. With drama, you need comedy to balance it out. Knuckles has already laid waste to the badniks attacking the town, but the town itself seems fine, except they're acting quite a bit strange, refusing to let Sonic and Knuckles in. The duo decide to commit the classic criminal act of breaking and entering, where the townspeople are acting all sorts of strange. Turns out the city is under the control of 2 mercenaries, who defeated the badniks attacking the town at the end of Sonic Forces, but took over said town afterwards. But if you think these two are threatening, they're more like Team Rocket from the Pokemon series, where they're more for laughs than an actual threat for our heroes. You need villains like this though, because it helps to balance the ones that are actually threatening. I do love these two, because while hilarious, they can land some blows if they need to. Or, use their natural stench because one of them is a skunk. Gross. The two are nonetheless defeated, and the town is liberated, while our mysterious figure comments on how Angel Island is completely unprotected. Knuckles, why do you keep doing this? Like, I don't even feel bad for you, man. You just suck at your job. Sonic heads into another town, and there's someone new that is fending off the badniks. This is Tangle the Lemur, one of the many new additions IDW Sonic has, and I really like her. She has a fun design, making her feel right at home with the rest of the Sonic cast, an energetic personality, and a unique ability of stretching her tail that's cool to see. Sonic and Tangle work together to beat back the badniks, but find themselves outnumbered until the timely arrival of Blaze the cat. Remember how long it was for Blaze to properly appear in Archie Sonic? Well, IDW Sonic says F that. Blaze is here, and bow down to her, you insolent little... The now now trio of heroes make short work of the remaining badniks, thus saving the town and the day. Blaze explains she came there because the magical space rocks told her to. That really isn't honestly as weird as it sounds. But Sonic says she's a bit late and recaps the events of Sonic Forces, now available at your local GameStop, which is probably going bankrupt, just saying. Blaze decides to stay and head with Tangle to continue helping the town. Sonic takes one panel to catch his breath from all that excitement. It's on brand and very well done in terms of its timing, and heads towards his next adventure. Meanwhile, Dr. Eggman stares out a window at a small Mobian. Yes, I know they're not called that anymore, but for the purpose of this, we're just gonna call them Mobians, okay? We're just calling them Mobians. Just deal with it, okay? Shut up. Crying over a broken wagon, teasing our next arc. And that was Fallout. This arc is very difficult to cover as it's simply a start to a larger story. It reminds me so much of Mobius 30 years later from Archie Sonic, where you weren't really able to be too harsh with it because it's trying to introduce and reintroduce characters, concepts, and locations for future stories. The difference is Mobius 30 years later went nowhere and felt like a well-done start with nothing to show for it, leaving it very hollow. Fallout leads into 60-something issues of this series, not to mention one-shots and miniseries out the wazoo just like the old days. This comic had everything stacked against it with an untimely cancellation of its predecessor and what it was based on. But it went out of the gate running as well as it could for something like this. And with our stage properly set, we can now embark on a new set of adventures with the Blue Blur. Sometimes good, sometimes quite terrible. But I cannot wait. That is all for this episode of Jordan's Soapbox. Join us next time as Jordan has to fight off angry comments saying how dare I review something that isn't Archie Sonic.
Thank you for visiting the Jordania Volcano Hotel. We hope that you'll visit again soon. Before you leave, would you like something from our gift shop? Becca has the latest and totally not looted goods from all over the world. One item of note is the subscribe button, coming from the US state of California. It works best when you ring its bell and turn on notifications, so you don't miss an episode of Jordan's Soapbox. We also have a limited edition video that we also think you might like, and a collection of Jordan's Soapbox episodes in a playlist, all for the price of... wait a minute. Free? We're giving this out for free? Becca, we are